Welcome to the SK Newsline Newscast. I'm your presenter, Andre Huey. The COVID-19 pandemic has triggered an increase in child abuse cases in St. Kitts and Nevis, reports the Department of Probation and Child Protection Services. SK Newsline's Glenn Bart reports.
The COVID-19 pandemic is having a substantial effect on families, including depression and child abuse, said Gerald Connor, the acting director of the Department of Probation and Child Protection Services. Speaking on the recent program called Working for You, Connor indicated that during the lockdown of 2020, there were spikes in child abuse, mental stress, and family problems stemming from lowered incomes of parents. According to Connor, an increase in child predation not only targeted females, but males as well, as some parents struggled to financially support the needs of their children.
Not help them anymore because the funds have dried out. And you find that predators, grooming began by older males. And even within the aspect of young males.
Yes.
Because they have to maintain themselves. So you will find that these were some of the challenges. I'm going to say this, we had, I believe, coming out of that, we had, I believe it was 2-3 cases where some young males were actually being coaxed online by males, by older males, to come and meet with them. And these are the reality of the situation, where we find that not just preying on the young females, but also preying on the young males in order to based upon their vulnerability of the pandemic and the whole lockdown and stuff of that nature. So we have to be careful of how we do things within our household. We have to be careful. So you'll find that domestic violence spiked. You'll find that depression of persons who can no longer facilitate their families in a particular way. Economic downturn, where you can no longer afford to buy this. Some persons couldn't even buy sugar, milk, stuff of that thing. So these are things where the social safety nets now have to come into play. We have to make sure that we strengthen of our social safety nets.
He said during the COVID-19 lockdown, a spike in spousal abuse also had a negative impact on children, coming with a decline in parental support. Glenn Bart reporting for SK Newsline.
Opposition leader Dr. Denzel Douglas says that while he is for vaccination and is supportive of vaccinating against COVID-19, he will not be taking the AstraZeneca vaccine. Dr. Douglas spoke to SK Newsline in an exclusive interview. Here is that report. Despite stating he supports vaccination against COVID-19 and that he too will become vaccinated, opposition leader Dr. Denzel Douglas said he will not be taking the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. Douglas, a trained medical officer by trade, in an interview with SK Newsline, said based on his examination of the reports and research of the vaccine, he will not be taking AstraZeneca.
I'm not calling down the AstraZeneca. Of course, I have not taken it for my own reasons. I have not. Maybe I would take another one. But from my scientific analysis and reading of this, I'm not taking it. And I have not taken it. But I will not ask people not to take it if they assess it to be what they would want to help the immune system, or if their doctors tell them that this is what they should be taking. That is my position. I am not really knocking the AstraZeneca at all. I am knocking vaccines which, in my opinion, do not respond to our analyses, which do not present the scientific studies that one is looking for. And as a result of that, I am hesitant.
The opposition leader has been accused by Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris of thwarting the government's vaccination rollout for being uncooperative and encouraging vaccine hesitancy among the unvaccinated population. Dr. Douglas shot down this suggestion, but opposition member of Parliament Dr. Jeffrey Hanley has taken the AstraZeneca vaccine and was publicly commended by the Prime Minister recently for doing so.
There can be no justification for any sensible politician to not want to encourage others to be vaccinated. In fact, those who are sensible enough, like Jeffrey Hanley, and the opposition has moved forward and has gotten himself vaccinated, and they too of the rollout.
Dr. Douglas, however, said he has no issue with his own Member of Parliament receiving the AstraZeneca vaccine.
Harris is in no position to determine whether I have done the right thing or not when it comes to medical matters. He's in no position whatsoever. He is just politicking. But the good thing about it is this: Jeffrey is not stupid. Jeffrey is aware that whatever applause he might have been given by the Prime Minister is a mute applause, and it is hypocritical as well. I am not going to say to any member of the team that I presently lead that they cannot take the vaccine. It's a personal choice. It is a personal choice. That is what I keep saying.
The opposition leader has been critical of the government's vaccination rollout, blaming the initial slow vaccination rate on poor communications and politicization. However, since a recent outbreak of the coronavirus in St. Kitts and Nevis over the last 3 weeks, there has been a surge in vaccination. As of Saturday, June 19th, over 67% of the target population has received the first dose, and 33.9% received both doses. I'm Andre Huey reporting for SKN Newsline. When we come back, the OECS celebrates 40 years. Elliott's Funeral Parlor is the first licensed embalmer in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. We have a friendly and professional staff. At Elliott's Funeral Parlor, we offer a wide range of packages from $6,500, homegoing service at chapel, locally made caskets, tailoring of outfit for deceased of your choice, wake, overnight with slideshow, funeral, death announcement, obituary, booklets, family pin-ons, memorial books, preparation of funeral arrangements, wreath, fresh and artificial. For further information, call 469-3298, 664-2007, or 660-0186. Elliott's Funeral Parlor in Gingerland, Nevis. Dedicated to those we serve.
I need some veggies for dinner. Let me just check the amount of sodium in this can. Oh no, this is too much. Let me try our next option. They did say it's healthy to consume less salt. This is much better. I am salt smart.
Auto Plus Car Wash, located on the College Street Gut, Bastille, St. Kitts. Bring your car to Auto Plus Car Wash to remove water stains, wiper marks. Get your doors, roof panel cleaned, seat floor mats, buffing, headlights, and engine wash. You get quality service at the best price at Auto Plus Car Wash. They really care for your car. Call 765-5140 or visit them on the College Street Gut, Bastille, St. Kitts. Auto Plus Car Wash, where the service is number one.
The SKN Newsline website now offers you more news. Log on to www.sknnewsline.com for local, regional, and international news. You can also watch the latest newscast and keep abreast with news in sports, all from sknnewsline.com. That's www.sknnewsline.com. News at your fingertips.
The Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, OECS, celebrates 40 years of existence recently, and member states, including St. Kitts and Nevis, acknowledge this milestone. Glenn Bart reports.
The Organization of Eastern Caribbean States stands as a beacon of cooperation and regional unity, said St. Kitts and Nevis' Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris. Commenting on the occasion of the OECS 40th anniversary, Prime Minister Harris said the OECS has played important roles in the development of member countries of the organization. According to the Prime Minister, the integration of the sub-region remains crucial for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis as well as other member countries of the OECS.
St. Kitts and Nevis has long recognized the value of investing in and strengthening our regional integration infrastructure to achieve our development objectives, be they economic, social, environmental, legislative, or political in nature. We are equally pleased that the original Treaty of Bastille, signed some 4 decades ago, was revised in 2010 to provide a legal underpinning for the creation of the OECS Economic Union. The hallmark features are the free movement of all OECS nationals, the right of establishment, harmonization of fiscal and macroeconomic policies, free circulation of goods, coordination of foreign and other sectorial policies to the greatest extent possible. Undoubtedly, the OECS today stands as a beacon among the rocky terrain and rough waters of regional integration in the wider Caribbean and beyond.
The treaty establishing the OECS was signed in a public ceremony on the apron of government headquarters on Church Street, Bastille, on the 18th of June, 1981. Glenn Barth reporting for SK Newsline.
Prime Minister of St. Kitts Nevis, Dr. Timothy Harris, made a call to end the personal attacks and disinformation on professionals in the fight against COVID-19 in the Federation. More in this report.
Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris said he condemns the personal attacks against medical professionals leading the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic on St. Kitts and Nevis. Prime Minister Harris was referring to criticisms, accusations, and disinformation leveled particularly against the Chief Medical Officer and the Medical Chief of Staff of the Health Emergency Operations Center. He called on persons to end the attacks and instead provide support for their work.
There can be no neutrality when the virus is attacking us regardless of color, politics, age, residence, location, or occupation. No time is there for bitterness and bitter politics. We must do what we have to do to protect lives. On this note, I wish to thank all the hard-working medical professionals and the frontline workers who have been toiling to keep us all safe. Moreover, I wish to condemn any personal attacks that have been leveled against our professionals. This must stop. I have outlined on several occasions that any party interested in providing constructive support in this fight against the COVID-19 pandemic is encouraged and invited to do so through the COVID-19 Task Force. We have created this structure to ensure that we approach this fight in the most effective and efficient way. Please support our hard-working professionals.
Meanwhile, on Tuesday, 15 June, it was announced that Nevis had its first non-travel-related positive case of COVID-19, a person identified through contact tracing taking place on St. Kitts. Glenn Barth reporting for SK Newsline.
The Alexandria Hospital on Nevis benefited from a donation of medical equipment from a European businessman. SK Newsline's Jacinthia Teixeira reports.
The medical equipment donated to the Alexandria Hospital for the pediatric and maternity wards will go a long way towards improving the delivery of healthcare on Nevis. This is according to Premier Mark Brantley, Senior Minister of Health and Gender Affairs in the Nevis Island Administration, NIA. Honorable Hazel Brandy Williams, Junior Minister of Health and Gender Affairs in the NIA, also registered her appreciation on behalf of the Ministry of Health and the hospital personnel for the vital equipment.
Today, you are donating medical equipment and supplies to the tune of $100,000 US. And I cannot express how truly touched we are by this humanitarian gesture. With this very tiny donation, the Ministry of Health and Gender Affairs will be in a position to provide better care for our children and expecting mothers. Your donation, no doubt, will make a positive difference in our antenatal, delivery, and postnatal care. As an administration, we are cognizant that delivery of health services require an all-hands-on-deck approach, and that is why we are always inspired by corporate citizens like yourselves who will come on board and make such generous contributions.
Included in the donation are infant incubator.
The equipment, valued at more than US $100,000, was donated by European businessman Mr. Bruno Moinville and his family. The donation included an electronic maternity delivery bed, an infant warmer and resuscitation unit, an infant incubator, 2 syringe infusion pumps, maternal and fetal monitors, a pediatric crash cart, and a jaundice meter. Mr. Moinville said, having fallen in love with Nevis during a sailing holiday in the Caribbean over a decade ago, his family has been vacationing in Nevis ever since. He said his family always felt welcome on the island and wanted to give back to its people in a meaningful way.
We can give you as a reward for what you have done for us, because when you come to St. Kitts, it's again when you are from a foreign country. I think it's a special a special attitude from all the people, and that makes you're feeling very and your holidays, because most of the time for us it's holidays, very nice.
I am Jacinta Teixeira reporting for SKN Newsline.
When we come back, we explore a human interest story in Jamaica, a teenager with so much promise, hampered by poverty and sickness.
The SKN Newsline website now offers you more news. Log on to www.sknnewsline.com for local, regional, and international news. You can also watch the latest newscast and keep abreast with news in sports, all from sknnewsline.com. That's www.sknnewsline.com. News at your fingertips.
You know, it's me, Mr. HE, and I'm here with one message: roll up to roll out. We all know how difficult things have been during this COVID-19 pandemic. While we continue to wash our hands, wear a face mask, and practice social distancing, how about we take it one step further and get vaccinated? Call the nearest health center to find out if you are eligible to be vaccinated. Or you can contact the Ministry of Health at any one of these numbers down below. Don't be discouraged by the negativity. We all have a role to play in protecting this federation. So, St. Kitts and Nevis, let's roll up to roll out.
Stay abreast with news on St. Martin with SMN News. Visit www.smn-news.com for up-to-date news, scoops, opinions, and hard-hitting facts. SMN News, we tell it like it is. Visit our website www.smn-news.com.
It's the new and improved SKN Newsline Android mobile app. With the SKN Newsline app, you can watch your news reports, the SKN Newsline newscast, sports, special features, and so much more. You can also send us a WhatsApp or call us directly. Go in the Google Play Store, search SKN Newsline, and download the app today. The SKN Newsline mobile app. News on the go.
Junior, could get popcorn, please? Don't tell Shane, Dev. Want some to please? I could get some salt. More, please. Boy, take a pack up from Junie.
Welcome back. For the big stories in regional news, we now have our Caribbean news segment. The touching story of a Jamaican teen who is so vibrant and full of potential, but whose life is interrupted by a myriad of serious illnesses. On top of that, she's constantly fighting depression, brought on by her deplorable living conditions. Kirk Wright of Television Jamaica reports.
Afreen Ramjeet is only 17 years old. She's a bundle of joy packed with boundless abilities. She can draw, dance.
Life is so sweet and I don't want to die, but this burden of beer could be hard sometimes.
And write songs, several of which she has mixed and voiced herself. Afreen often wears a bright smile, but that's her way of masking the pain she feels every day.
Even right now, speaking to you, I'm in a lot of pain.
If you can think of some major illnesses, Afreen has them.
So I have fibromyalgia, which is a bone disease. I have lupus. I have cysts in the womb. I have epilepsy, also known as seizures. And I have a heart condition.
These empty boxes represent the stock of medication that Afreen needs to keep her going. She has not been well lately because all her medication ran out over a month ago. Afreen sat up close to 12 minutes for this interview, but collapsed near the end and was rushed to the university hospital where she was kept overnight. She was released today and is doing a little better. But with no internet and a laptop for online classes, Afreen has missed out on more than a year of her education.
I do love school. If there is anything that I know in this world that I love, it is school. And I would do anything just to be in school.
Her mother, Elisa Reynolds, was a vendor at the Glengough High School where Afreen is a 10th grader. But COVID-19 forced the closure of schools, leaving Miss Reynolds without an income to care for her.
With everything that is going on with her, she tried to take her life more than one time because she's saying that she's trying to ease the pressure off her mommy. With mommy have to do so much for her, and mommy have to spend so much money to get medication and everything.
Their deplorable living condition adds to their already heavy burden. Their rented property looks okay from the outside. Inside, the grim reality of their poverty stands out. Their bed, a piece of sponge, supported by a few buckets to help keep it level. 2 empty cylinders and a stove that barely works. The roof leaks. Duck ants are eating away at the foundation, and the bathroom barely works, but they brave it and shower outside.
It's one of the most things that makes me depressed too, because looking at the condition of how I live, and I have never ever had a room for myself. Sorry.
Her mother also has 2 serious medical conditions, but look what happens when we asked her about that.
Well, yes, I do have some problems also, yes, I do. But I leave myself out and look about Afreen.
The 2 are begging for immediate help, and without a sustained supply of medication, Afreen's mom fears the worst could happen. Kirk Wright, TVJ News.
As tourism picks up in the Bahamas, there is concern that the Delta variant could enter the country. Eyewitness News Bahamas reports.
Well, it's being branded by the CDC as a variant of concern. The Delta variant has now become the dominant strain of COVID-19 across several countries, raising concerns that outbreaks could hit us by this fall. Our Matthew Moxie tells us more in this report.
A new variant of the coronavirus now on the radar, and health officials say that the Delta strain is more transmissible and can cause more severe disease than any other.
And the people who have COVID, the Delta variant, are 85% more likely to be hospitalized.
With tourism arrivals climbing, health officials are anxiously watching the Delta variant as it spreads through an unevenly vaccinated American public.
And it is concerning because we know that COVID and these COVID variants can spread by travel.
COVID-19 cases have reportedly been declining over recent weeks, but there's a concern that could change as the pace of vaccination slows and the Delta variant spreads. Already, the variant accounts for 10% of U.S. cases. Opposition leader Philip Davis, during his budget contribution on Tuesday, urged the government to be ready for the potential impact of this variant. This as he cautioned the Minnis administration not to make the same mistakes again, which he says leads to impromptu measures imposed on residents.
And there's the crude use of lockdowns as a blunt and harmful practice to stop the spread of the virus. As you have said time and time again, if the government conducted pre-testing instead, they would know which people are infected and which are not. Those without the virus could carry on being economically productive, whilst the others could be isolated and treated as required.
Government's travel policy leaves the door open for carriers of the virus, as vaccinated people no longer are required to test, though they are considered a low risk. On the bright side, Dr. Forbes says the existing vaccines protect against the Delta strain.
The AstraZeneca vaccine is 60% effective to protect against the Delta variant, and it's also even more effective to prevent hospitalizations from the Delta variant.
Health officials revealed in April that more contagious variants were in the Bahamas and that samples were sent abroad to identify which strains are present. But almost 2 months later, there has been no word from the National Reference Lab. Matthew Moxie, Eyewitness News.
Stay abreast with news on St. Martin with SMN News. Visit www.smn-news.com for up-to-date news, scoops, opinions, and hard-hitting facts. SMN News, we tell it like it is. Visit our website www.smn-news.com.
Junior, can I get popcorn, please? Don't tell Shane, Dev. Want me to plead? I can get some salt. More, please. Boy, take your popcorn from Junie.
Internationally, as states across the U.S. continue to lift remaining COVID-19 restrictions, health officials are warning that the Delta variant, first detected in India, could cause a surge of COVID-19 cases in the fall. NBC News medical contributor Dr. Natalie Azar explains where vaccines work against the variant and how long-term effects of the virus could impact a return to normalcy. NBC News reports.
Let's bring in NBC News medical contributor Dr. Natalie Azar. Dr. Azar, I want to start with this Delta variant. We keep hearing more contagious, more severe if you are unvaccinated and contract this variant. What do we know, though, about how effective current vaccines are against the Delta variant?
Well, good morning, Ellison. Well, the good news is that for the mRNA vaccines, and you're pretty well protected against the Delta variant. Now, this data is actually coming out of the UK, where they actually looked at how the Delta variant fared against the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, as well as the AstraZeneca vaccine. As you know, the AstraZeneca vaccine is not one that we have here in the US. And basically, after 2 doses of the Pfizer vaccine, your protection was at about 88%. So if we extrapolate to Moderna, which has the same, of course, technology with the mRNA, we can assume it's roughly the same. We don't, however, have that data with the J&J vaccine. But remember, in all likelihood, with all vaccinations, you are protected from severe disease, but we do have that, at least that granular data out of the UK right now, Ellison.
And there's a new AP poll that's showing a majority of Americans are returning to life before COVID, if you will. But what should we be doing to continue protecting ourselves from COVID-19 as more people are interacting daily? Are there still concerns, particularly in the medical community, that it might be too soon to be opening back up?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you'll get a variety of opinions on that. You know, I think it is certainly safe to say that if you are fully vaccinated, you know, you can essentially go about life as you would have pre-pandemic. And remember, this also has to do with your own what we call risk tolerance. That means what are you willing to potentially risk based on your, you know, underlying medical problems, your household risks, that kind of thing. You know, we should spend some time talking about the fact that certain individuals who are immunocompromised may have not mounted as robust an immune response to vaccination. So in spite of the fact that they are fully vaccinated, they may not actually be as protected. If you're unvaccinated, this is a particularly perilous time, given the surgence, I should say, of the Delta variant. It's really increasing here in the U.S. at a clip, Ellison. And as you mentioned, it is likely more virulent, and as we know, much more contagious.
And Dr. Azar, you touched on the United Kingdom and studies there. There is a new UK study that deals specifically with the long-term effects that COVID-19 is having on patients. Take a listen to what former FDA Commissioner Dr. Scott Gottlieb had to say, and then I'll ask you a question on the back end.
About 300 people, a little over 300 people developed COVID. And when they compared those individuals who developed COVID against matched controls, people who were similar, who didn't develop COVID, they saw a pretty persistent decline in certain brain tissue matter. Certain areas of their brain showed a decline in actual tissue, a shrinkage of parts of their brain.
So what does this tell us, Dr. Azar, about how COVID impacts the body? Have we sort of reached a point where long-haul COVID can be looked at a little more closely than before?
Well, absolutely. And, you know, if you just look at the sheer numbers of people who've been infected with COVID-19 and the estimates of individuals who will have lingering symptoms after their initial infection, which, by the way, doesn't need to be severe. It could even be mild or asymptomatic infection. And you know, patients months later still having significant headaches and brain fog and exhaustion and fatigue. You know, it's incredibly important, not only the fact that many public health experts say that this will be the next public health emergency for the U.S. just in terms of dollars. But it's important not only to get insight into what's happening with COVID-19 and this post-viral syndrome, but all post-viral and post-infectious syndromes that have come before it, and specifically chronic fatigue syndrome. That community is certainly hoping that some scientific insight and potentially therapeutics will come out of this devastation. Ellison.
All right, Dr. Natalie Azar, thank you so much.
With COVID variants spreading quickly around the world, governments are responding more aggressively with vaccines. India is now offering them free of charge to all adults. But the bigger challenge is reaching the majority of its people who don't live in cities or towns. Al Jazeera's Elizabeth Puranam reports from New Delhi.
Healthcare workers trek through the pine forests of Indian-administered Kashmir to reach the village of Daksum. The remote Himalayan region is home to the nomadic Bakarwal tribe in the summer. The cattle herders move in search of pastures for their sheep and goats in between the seasons. The nearest healthcare center to Daksum is a 3-hour trek.
We came in April and will slowly go to a different area from here. We are a bit far, so no one could go to get the vaccine, and everyone was scared of it. But now the doctors had made us understand that the vaccine is necessary, so that's why we got it today.
After months of vaccine shortages and uncertainty about supply, the Indian government has announced vaccines will be free for all adults from June 21st. Many people in Daksum are grateful to have these healthcare workers.
We live very far away in the mountains. No one from the health department had come here until today, and luckily, I got vaccinated.
Others need more convincing. Vaccine shortages aren't the only challenge facing the Indian government. Hesitancy, fueled by misinformation and mistrust, is common in rural and remote areas.
People often are very reluctant about this vaccine. So our team and we are doing best to convince these people. So each day we go to these nomads which are residing here in the deep forests. We convince them, and each day we almost vaccinate 40 to 50 people.
State governments have begun campaigns to convince people and are sending teams to villages. A devastating second wave of the coronavirus, which killed more than 180,000 people in April and May, has tapered off and cases have declined. But health experts say vaccination rates must increase significantly to protect people, and that unless vaccine hesitancy is addressed, it will put India's fragile gains against COVID-19 at risk. Elizabeth Puranam, Al Jazeera, New Delhi.
In sports, Trinidad and Tobago's new interim coach Angus Eve says he hopes to bring back the joy to national football. The country's all-time appearance leader will step up from the role of national youth coach to the senior ranks with the task of getting the team ready for the Gold Cup qualifiers. More from TTT News.
The newly appointed interim head coach thanked the TTFA for putting his faith in him as a coach.
I just want to say thank you to the normalization committee for showing faith in me to give me this opportunity at this point in time. This is a total honor and privilege for me to have the opportunity to serve my country in a different capacity.
He said he hopes to breathe new life into Trinidad and Tobago football.
My total aim here is to try to help us to come out of a very trying and difficult time in football. And if we can rally together and get all the troops working together, the players, the staff, the footballing community, give them some positive in a time that where we're in a COVID scenario. So also to give, some level of hope to all the people who are home and, not in jobs and all these kind of problems that we're going through in our society at this point in time.
Meanwhile, the man that led the committee to select Eve as interim head coach, Nicholas Gomez, said while the decision to replace Terry Fennick as head coach was based on performance, the financial details of his contract also contributed to his removal.
The fact is, we remained very uncomfortable with the arrangements that were in place that we met when we came in. And this is always a matter that was of concern to us. And we attempted to have conversations in that context that did not lead to any different outcome. And so having regard to the development, we took the opportunity to make a decision as it relates to affordability and to do something that was very different.
Kent Fuentes, TTT Sports.
Recently appointed women's senior team head coach James Thomas is in Trinidad and Tobago to take up official duty, having arrived in the country last week. Thomas is currently in quarantine but has been on the ball over the past few weeks, drawing up plans for the program with TTFA Director of Women's Football Janelle James and Technical Director Dion Lafoucade. He has also met with a group of senior team players to introduce and outline his vision for the senior women's team program. The players who will form the provisional squad list will undergo medical screening at the FA's partner HealthNet Caribbean Limited this week, and then undergo fitness assessments to provide Thomas with the necessary data as to how he would proceed in mapping out the cycles of training schedules and wider calendar, taking into consideration that the players have been inactive for a considerable length of time.
Internationally, led by Kevin Hoyter's playoff career-high 27 points, the number 5 seed Atlanta Hawks defeated the number 1 seed Philadelphia 76ers 103-96 in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. Trae Young added 21 points and 10 assists for the Hawks in the victory, while Joel Embiid of the 76ers led all scorers with 31 points and 11 rebounds. The Hawks have now closed out the best-of-7 series 4-3 and will advance to the Eastern Conference Finals to face number 3 seed Milwaukee Bucks. And speaking of the Bucks, Giannis Antetokounmpo's 40 points, 13 rebounds, and 5 assists led the Milwaukee Bucks to defeat the number 2 seed and favorites Brooklyn Nets in overtime 115-111 on Saturday in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. Chris Middleton added 23 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, and 5 steals for the Bucks in the victory, while Kevin Durant tallied 48 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists for the Nets. The Bucks have now closed out the best-of-7 series 4-3 and will advance to the Eastern Conference Finals and will now face the Atlanta Hawks. Led by Devin Booker's 40 points, 13 rebounds, and 11 assists, the number 2 seed in the Western Conference, the Phoenix Suns defeated the number 4 LA Clippers 121-114 in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals on Sunday. DeAndre Ayton added 20 points and 9 rebounds for the Suns in the victory, while Paul George tallied 34 points, 4 rebounds, and 5 assists for the Clippers. The Suns lead the best-of-7 series 1-0, with Game 2 taking place on Tuesday, June 22nd at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. The Clippers, they've made it to the conference finals after defeating the Utah Jazz on Friday night in Game 6 of the Western Conference semifinals. Moving on now to football, we have results in Copa America. We have results from Friday night where Chile edged out Bolivia 1-0. Same scoreline for Argentina, getting the victory over Uruguay 1-0. On Sunday, Venezuela, they drew 2-2 with Ecuador, and Peru defeated Colombia 2-1. Action now in Euro 2020 on the weekend. On Saturday was a big matchup, France versus Hungary. A big result for Hungary. They drew 1-1 with France. A big upset there. Germany defeated Portugal 4-2. 2 of Germany's goals came from own goals. Spain and Poland played to a 1-1 draw also on Saturday. On Sunday it was Switzerland with a big 3-1 victory over Turkey, and Italy edging out Wales 1-0. Then on Monday, Netherlands crushed North Macedonia 3-0, and Austria edging out Ukraine 1-0. And that will do it for this edition of the SKN Newsline Newscast. For more stories, log on to our website, www.sknewsline.com. From all of us here at SK Newsline and Channel 95, I'm Andre Huey. Thank you for watching.